My name was Amir Al-Fayed. I was a prosecutor, a defender of justice in the vibrant, multicultural streets of New York City. Known for my strong presence and sharp mind, I navigated the complexities of law with a fervor rooted in my devout Muslim beliefs. Devoted to the pursuit of truth, I wore my convictions like armor, unaware of the impending fracture that would shatter my very foundation. Until one ordinary day, in the midst of a routine hearing, my life turned upside down. Suddenly, darkness enveloped me. The courtroom faded away, and I slipped into a realm that I could never have anticipated, a near-death experience that would change everything. In that disorienting void, I encountered a figure whose presence flooded me with light. "Amir," he called. "I have something to show you." In that moment, all my doubts, my questions about purpose and faith, collided with a profound revelation. Jesus was standing before me, unveiling the hidden truths of a cosmic battle I had been blind to. This wasn't mere theological debate. It was a divine unveiling of the spiritual warfare that permeated our world. I saw beyond the veil of society, recognizing the manipulation interwoven in our political and religious fabric. It was a chilling epiphany that struck me to my core. I was not just fighting for justice. I was complicit in a larger, deceptive narrative. How many of us are walking through life half awake, unaware of the true adversary lurking behind the scenes? Upon returning to my body, the turmoil within intensified. I felt the weight of my community's expectations pressing down, afraid of being cast out, a traitor in the eyes of those I loved. But the revelation left me restless. I started a quest for understanding, delving into the teachings of the Bible, seeking the solace of a truth I knew was there, hidden beneath years of doctrine and tradition. As I embarked on this journey, something extraordinary began to unfold. I found a small group of kindred souls who understood my struggles, offering me acceptance and hope, as if drawn together by an unseen force. Each conversation deepened my resolve, illuminating the path I had been meant to walk all along. This wasn't merely about belief anymore. It was a calling to confront deception and embrace the love of Christ. Now, I stand before you ready to share a story, not just of transformation, but of awakening. An invitation to witness the profound revelations waiting to shift your own understanding of faith and identity. But first, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? What time is it there? Leave a comment below. And if you love Jesus and yearn for deeper truths, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Because what I'm about to unveil goes beyond mere testimony. It's a spiritual awakening, ready to challenge and uplift your soul. In the multicultural heart of New York, where the vibrant streets hum with life and energy, I've dedicated my career as a prosecutor, passionately fighting against judicial corruption. My name is Kamal, and for years, I've navigated the complex web of the legal system, entrenched in my faith and the traditions that shape my identity as a Muslim. The atmosphere is thick with respect and obedience, the weight of cultural expectations often pressing down on me like an iron fist. Yet, amid the silence and conformity that pervades our community, I've always felt a yearning for truth beneath the surface, a whisper too easily drowned out by the noise around me. During one pivotal case, something monumental shifted my life's trajectory. I was in the courtroom, passionately presenting evidence against a corrupt official whose deceit ran deep. The pressure was palpable, the stakes were high, and as I stood before the judge and jury, I felt the heaviness of the truth pressing on my heart. But in that critical moment, something extraordinary happened. I suddenly found myself enveloped in a blinding light, pulled out of this realm of battles and strife into the presence of Jesus. It was more than a vision. It felt like an awakening, an encounter that defied logical comprehension and transcended everything I had come to know. "Kamala?" He called my name softly yet firmly. In his eyes I saw a profound understanding of the spiritual war that raged not only within me, but also around the world. "You are called to witness the truth," Jesus said, revealing to me the hidden agendas that govern our lives. The elite manipulate our perceptions and keep us trapped in a cycle of deception, distracting us from the deeper spiritual truths we all crave. I felt the weight of his words resonating within me as the urgency of that revelation washed over my soul, stirring a deep compassion for all those who remain blind to this reality. In those precious moments, he unfolded the secrets of our society, the conflicts that divide us, the wars fueled by propaganda, and the systems working tirelessly to perpetuate ignorance and fear. I witnessed the suffering of countless individuals, their struggles intertwined in a web spun by powers that thrived on division. The experience ignited a fire within me, a conviction that I was meant not only to fight for justice in the courtroom, but to spread this revelation beyond those walls and into the hearts of those yearning for spiritual liberation. Returning from that encounter was jarring. I was thrust back into the chaos of the courtroom, yet I was no longer the same person. The weight of understanding hung over me like a cloak, urging me to take action. Each day, I felt pulled between my duties as a prosecutor and the calling to share the revelations that had been entrusted to me. I began seeking out others within my community, engaging in quiet conversations where I could share the awakening I experienced with Jesus. I hoped to inspire them to look beyond the deceptions that surrounded us and embrace the truth that could liberate them. Yet, the fear of backlash lingered. What if they rejected me? What if my pursuit of truth threatened the very identity I had fought to uphold? The struggle continued to intensify, but as I delved deeper into this spiritual war, I felt a growing conviction that the fight for truth was worth the risk. Every soul I encountered was a reminder of the connections we hold with one another, the collective journey toward awakening that awaited us all. The urgency of my mission pressed on my heart. Time was of the essence, and the call to action echoed through the chambers of my being. It was a chance to break the cycle of deception and spread the message of love and unity that Jesus imparted to me. In this pivotal moment, I felt more alive than ever, ready to engage with the world not just as a prosecutor, but as a vessel for revelation and hope. I've always been Amir Al-Fayed, a respected prosecutor in New York, known for my strong ethics and unwavering commitment to justice. To the outside world, I was a success, embodying the image of a devout Muslim lawyer who fought for the rights of those in need. Yet beneath that polished exterior lay a deep dissatisfaction, a spiritual emptiness that gnawed at me relentlessly. I often felt like I was living a double life, conforming to the expectations of my profession while struggling with an internal battle that had become increasingly difficult to ignore. Days bled into one another as I went through the motions, feeling unfulfilled and haunted by a sense that something vital was missing. One fateful morning, while preparing to present a crucial piece of evidence in court, I was struck by an overwhelming sensation, a rush of energy that coursed through my body, leaving me breathless. As I stood before the jury, I felt as if I was being pulled into another dimension, a world stripped of the clutter and chaos that dominated my daily life. In that moment, everything faded away, and I was enveloped in a dazzling light. It was there, in that divine presence, that I encountered Jesus. His radiance brought a sense of peace that washed over me, and I felt layers of my burdens peel away. "Amir," he said softly but with authority, "you've been called to witness the truth." In that sacred space, revelations flooded my mind. I was shown the hidden agendas that dictated the course of human civilization, the manipulation of power wielded by the elite that kept society living in fear and deception. I understood that the spiritual war one had sensed all along was very real, a battle fought not only in the external world but also within every individual's heart and soul. The hypocrisy I had often witnessed in the legal system was mirrored in the societal structures around me, and the vision illuminated the extent of the deception we all had been subjected to. As Jesus revealed these hidden truths, I felt a profound urgency settle in my spirit. I witnessed the pain inflicted upon communities, families torn apart by divisions crafted by those in power. The conflicts tearing at the fabric of society were not accidents. They were orchestrated to maintain control. Each child lost to the chaos of war. Each family broken by intolerance. All bore the marks of this grand deception. I could see with clarity what needed to be done. We had to awaken from our slumber, to rise together against the forces that sought to keep us in darkness. This was not just about me. It was about everyone still trapped in confusion and fear. In that divine moment, I understood the responsibility that came with my awakening. Jesus handed me the torch of truth, urging me to spread the light to others like a balm for their wounds. Returning to my body felt surreal. The world I had known came crashing back, but I was forever altered. I felt that the truths I had glimpsed needed to be shared, that my silence would only perpetuate the cycle of deception that suffocated us all. The pain of knowing my own family might not accept this journey weighed on me, but the mission ahead was far greater than my fear. Every day became an opportunity to fight against the systemic issues I had once accepted, to engage in conversations that could spark awakening not just in myself, but in everyone around me. I began to seek out those who were grappling with their own truths, individuals who reflected the very struggles I had faced. Engaging in conversations, I slowly shared my experience, my encounter with Jesus, the revelations about the hidden agenda that manipulated our lives and beliefs. Each dialogue felt charged with potential, echoing the urgency I felt within. I could see the flickers of understanding in their eyes, each one a step closer to their own awakening. This spiritual battle raged on, but I was no longer just a participant. I was becoming a warrior of light, wielding the truth against the deception that permeated our world. With every story shared, every moment of connection forged, I felt the tide beginning to shift, and I knew the path ahead would be filled with challenges, yet it was a path I was determined to walk. As I sat quietly, preparing to pray, I felt an unsettling emptiness settle in my chest, an increasing void that I couldn't ignore. My name is Amir, and for years I had dedicated my life as a prosecutor in New York, guided by the principles of justice and the faith I had always known. However, as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I found myself silently questioning the efficacy and purpose of my prayers. Despite my outward appearance of conviction and dedication, inwardly, I felt a growing disconnection, a spiritual conflict that nagged at my soul. It was as if I was shouting into an abyss, seeking solace through my faith but receiving instead only the dull echo of my own doubts. Night after night, my dreams turned into unsettling nightmares, distorting reality, laced with images of chaos and confusion. These dreams forced me to reflect deeper on the meaning of my life and the role of religion in a world that sometimes felt engulfed in darkness. I'd been taught that faith was a refuge, a guiding light through life's challenges, but I was beginning to sense an underlying deception, one that clouded my understanding. The societal structures and narratives I had accepted were beginning to seem insufficient, leaving me grasping for the truth hidden beneath layers of tradition and expectation. Each morning, I woke with a heavy heart, burdened by the questions swirling in my mind. Was my faith genuine, or was it simply a chain binding me to convention? Amid this turmoil, I longed for a clarity that felt elusive. One fateful evening, consumed with yearning for answers, I drifted into an otherworldly state as I fell into a deep sleep. Suddenly, the room dissolved around me, and I was enveloped in brilliant light. There stood Jesus, radiating an aura of love and compassion that pierced through the confusion in my heart. "Amir," he said softly, yet with profound authority, "the truth you seek lies beyond the deceptions of this world." In that sacred moment, the revelations began to flow. He showed me the intricate webs of manipulations spun by the elite, the hidden agenda that dictated our societal divisions and encoded the very fabric of life as we experience it. As he spoke, Visions flooded my mind. I saw the consequences of the spiritual war unfolding around us. Families divided, friends turned against each other, and communities fractured by ideologies that had become more important than the individuals who comprised them. The harsh realities of wars waged, not only in distant lands but also in the hearts of innocent people, were revealed to me. Jesus explained how the elite thrive on this chaos, perpetuating systems that keep us in fear and ignorance, manipulating our perceptions to maintain their power. You must awaken and bear witness, for the time for silence is over, he implored, the urgency in his voice sending ripples through my very being. When I resurfaced from that experience, the world felt notably different. I could still see the walls of my room, but my heart resonated with an awakening that had been unlocked by that encounter. The questions I had were still there, yet now they were accompanied by a sense of purpose. I understood that my journey had evolved into something far greater than my individual struggles. It was about challenging the status quo, uncovering truths, and standing against the deception that had kept me and so many others shackled for too long. Even as the fear of loss loomed over me, fear of alienation from my family and community, I felt an undeniable drive to explore and share the truths I had unearthed. The idea of being labeled an outcast paled in comparison to the urgency I felt to spread the message of love, truth, and awakening that the spiritual war called for. As I stood before the jury in that packed courtroom, the tension was palpable. I'm Amir, a prosecutor in New York, known for my commitment to truth and justice. But as I presented my case, engaging the jury with the weight of evidence against a corrupt official, an unsettling sensation began to unfold within me. It felt as though the walls were closing in, the air thickening around me. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for clarity, but it only deepened the sense of disorientation. My heart raced, and in an instant, everything faded to black as I collapsed to the floor. What happened next was unlike anything I had ever experienced. In that dark moment, I was transported into an incredible light, a blinding luminosity that surrounded me and enveloped my very being. I felt weightless, as though I had transcended my earthly existence, floating into a realm beyond the physical. And then, within that brilliance, I saw him, Jesus, standing there, radiant and full of compassion. He called my name. "Amir," he said, and I felt a rush of warmth and understanding that was pure and overwhelming. It was a revelation I had never anticipated, an encounter that would challenge everything I thought I knew about faith and existence. As I stood before him, I felt the presence of profound truths unfolding. "You are part of a continuous spiritual war, Amir," Jesus explained, his voice echoing through the depths of my soul. In that instant, I grasped the magnitude of the hidden agendas that dictated our lives, the structures of control exerted by the elite, manipulating perceptions to maintain their dominance. He revealed to me how easily fear and deception weave their way into the fabric of our everyday existence, twisting the truth and keeping us bound in ignorance. I saw visions of societal strife, families torn apart by ideological divides, communities fractured by hatred, all part of a grand design that perpetuates our suffering. The urgency in his message resonated deeply within me, igniting a passion to bear witness to everything I had seen. I was shown the political manipulations taking place right under our noses, individuals driven by self-interest using technology to deepen the divisions we faced. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming. These were the systems I had once upheld, believing in their integrity. Yet, in the light of this revelation, it became clear that maintaining silence was complicity in the very deceptions that tethered humanity. When I regained consciousness, the sterile air of the courtroom felt heavy around me, a stark contrast to the warmth of the light I had just left. The voices around me, my colleagues, the jury, seemed distant and muffled. I realized that the revelation was not merely for me. I was compelled to act, to speak out about the truths I had encountered. How could I return to my life as if nothing had happened? How could I ignore the call to awaken others to the realities of the spiritual war we are all facing? In those moments, a renewed determination surged through me. I began to formulate how I would share this message, eager to connect with others who had been disenfranchised, others who needed to see the light beyond the shadows. Fear still lurked in the corners of my mind. Fear of losing my ties to family, fear of being labeled a dissenter. Yet I felt a fire igniting within me, a driving force that demanded to be unleashed. My journey was no longer about winning cases or gaining accolades. It was about guiding others to their own awakening, breaking the chains of deception that had bound us for far too long. And so I took my first step into this new reality, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. When I returned to consciousness, I felt as if the weight of the world had shifted. My name is Amir Al-Fayed, and I had just experienced a profound encounter with Jesus that would forever alter my path. As a prosecutor in New York, I had devoted my life to seeking justice and exposing lies. Yet I suddenly found myself thrust into an internal conflict that was far more significant than any case I had ever faced. The spiritual war that raged around us became vividly clear during my near-death experience. But now, in the cold light of reality, I was grappling with the fear of rejection from my family and the Muslim community that had so deeply shaped my identity. At that moment, my heart sank with the weight of uncertainty. I knew my family cherished tradition and viewed any deviation from the norm as a betrayal. The very thought of their disappointment filled me with dread. How could I return to them and explain the revelation I had received? My connection to Jesus felt like a light illuminating the truth, yet I feared it would blind those I loved, pushing them into shadows of anger and disappointment. Friends who once stood by me began to distance themselves as I shared glimpses of my awakening. "You're a traitor," they would say, their voices tinged with betrayal. Each outburst resonated with the pain of separation, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated. As days turned into weeks, the internal crisis I faced intensified. The tension between my past life and newfound truths left me feeling like a wanderer in my own existence. The clarity I had felt in that divine moment began to be clouded by doubt and anxiety. I grappled with questions like, is my awakening worth the cost? Am I strong enough to continue along this path, knowing it may lead to the loss of my family? Each prayer felt like a desperate plea for guidance, yet I was met with silence. I struggled to reconcile the peace I had felt in the embrace of Jesus with the anger and rejection I faced from those around me. In the stillness of the night, however, I felt a stirring deep within, a call to something greater than myself. The revelation about the hidden agendas of the elite and the societal structures designed to perpetuate deception weighed on my heart. I became acutely aware that my struggle was not solely personal. It was a reflection of the larger battle that many face in their pursuit of truth and justice. I had seen the manipulation of society, the way fear is wielded to keep people from awakening to their own potential. I felt a flicker of hope in knowing that my experiences could help guide others toward their own path of liberation. Determined to rise above the hostility and rejection, I began seeking out those who would hear my story. I shared the truths revealed to me by Jesus, how the spiritual war we face extends beyond individual struggles, reaching into the very systems of power that govern our daily lives. I emphasized the urgency to awaken, to recognize the deceptive narratives that keep us chained to ignorance and division. In speaking out, I found a renewed sense of purpose blossoming within me, igniting a passion to be a catalyst for change, regardless of the personal sacrifices that might lie ahead. In my quest for truth, I found myself living a dual life. I'm Amir, a prosecutor in New York, known for my rigorous pursuit of justice, yet underneath my polished demeanor was a growing void. I felt increasingly isolated, trapped between the expectations placed upon me and the spiritual awakening I was beginning to experience. With each passing day, I became more curious about the teachings of Christianity, Late at night, while the rest of the world slept, I would sit alone and read the Bible, searching for answers to the questions that plagued me. The words guided me through my confusion, revealing deeper meanings that illuminated the shadows of my heart. As I delved into those sacred texts, I experienced a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. I began watching testimonies online, stories of individuals who had undergone similar awakenings, each sharing their journeys of faith and transformation. Their accounts resonated deeply with me, fueling a fire within, while simultaneously heightening my fear of the consequences that could arise from my exploration. The thought of being branded a traitor by my family and community weighed heavily on my mind. I felt torn between the hope that these new beliefs offered and the fear of losing everything I had known. Despite my apprehension, I sought out a small community, a group of like-minded individuals who pursued the truth without the constraints of societal judgment. With them, I felt seen and understood. They too had grappled with their own identities, ensnared by the same hidden agendas I had begun to recognize. As we shared stories and insights, I began to comprehend the depth of the spiritual war we were all engaged in, a battle against the deception woven into the very fabric of our society. The manipulation by the elite felt almost suffocating, but together, we cultivated resilience and hope, honoring the truths that began to seep into our lives. In conversations that felt charged with urgency, we discussed the political dimensions of our awakening. I learned how powerful figures exploit our fears, using technology and misinformation to maintain control. With Jesus as our guiding light, we committed to dismantling those barriers, advocating for the truth even when the path seemed perilous. My resolve solidified as I recognized that I wasn't just fighting for my own freedom, but also for those still trapped under the weight of societal deception. The trembling fear I felt was countered by the fire of conviction burning within me, a need to proclaim the truths I'd witnessed. Yet even as I connected with this supportive community, I often felt a pang of guilt in the quiet moments. Each time I shared my revelations, reminding others of their power to assert their truths, I was reminded of my family left behind in the shadows of doubt. I prayed silently for reconciliation, for the courage to face them again in the light of my new understanding. The spiritual journey is fraught with pain, as faith can both liberate and imprison. I knew that as I stepped further into the light, the decisions I made would not just impact me. They would ripple through the lives of those still bound to their old identities. No matter how daunting the darkness felt, my witnessing had begun. I felt the overwhelming need to guide others toward their awakenings, urging them to join the fight against the deception that held us captive. The truth had become my sword, and it was time to wield it. Gradually, I came to understand that my experience transcended mere personal revelation. It was a calling that demanded to be shared. In the aftermath of my encounter with Jesus, I felt compelled to present my testimony to those around me, to warn others about the deceptions that surrounded us all. The veil of complacency that had shrouded my life began to lift, revealing the profound spiritual war that raged not only within each individual, but also across the landscape of society itself. I felt a sense of urgency, a knot in my stomach, reminding me that the truth must be spoken, consequences be damned. Every day, as I returned to my duties as a prosecutor, I felt the weight of my awakening pressing against my conscience. How could I stand before a jury and advocate for justice without confronting the larger truths about our world? The more deeply I delved into my mission, the more aware I became of the hidden agendas orchestrated by the elite, the manipulative forces that exploited fear to maintain their power. It was nearly maddening to embrace this new awareness, knowing that families were torn apart and lives wrecked on the altar of deception. In my heart, I grappled with the thought that my quiet compliance was a disservice to those suffering in silence. The struggle to break my silence felt like a battle in itself. I envisioned standing in front of my community and friends, sharing how I had witnessed the depth of lies shrouded in the guise of faith. Jesus showed me the truth. I rehearsed in my mind, knowing that those words could either ignite hope or send me spiraling into isolation. The realization that I might be branded a traitor by my own community haunted me, yet I understood I couldn't allow that fear to dictate my actions. It was time to step into the light and allow my voice to rise above the din of deception. With each conversation I had, the fear in my heart began to shift toward determination. I reached out to others who shared similar experiences, forming bonds with those who felt that familiar spiritual tug. We exchanged stories of our struggles, each account serving as a reminder that the journey toward truth was not meant to be walked alone. Each testimony shared only intensified the urgency of our collective mission. In those moments, I felt Jesus beside me, urging me to continue, despite the risks, the potential backlash from those still tethered to the shadows of their beliefs. The spiritual war we were embroiled in required every ounce of courage I could muster. I spoke about how technology had become a tool of manipulation, and how the narratives promoted in society often served the interests of those in power rather than the truth. The more I shared, the more I understood the vastness of the struggle we faced. We were fighting not just for ourselves, but for everyone caught in the web of lies. A fight for awakening that I could no longer ignore. I felt the emotional intensity building within me, a swelling call to arms that echoed both a personal journey and a universal mission. The weight of responsibility pressed down, but with it came the exhilarating possibility of transforming lives, including my own. Bidding farewell to my former life felt both liberating and terrifying. My name is Amir Al-Fayed, and after years as a prosecutor, I made the bold decision to leave everything behind. Standing in my empty office, I could feel the weight of the past lifting slightly as I packed my belongings, each item representing chains I was ready to shed. The path that had once seemed so clear was now obscured by the revelations I had received during my encounter with Jesus. The truths I discovered were alive within me, urging me toward a new chapter, one that would allow me to embrace my spiritual awakening fully. Relocating to another state wasn't merely a change of scenery, it symbolized a profound metamorphosis within. With every mile I traveled, I could feel the shackles of my former identity slipping away. I contemplated the hidden agendas that had influenced my life for so long, the societal norms and expectations that kept me bound to a version of myself that felt increasingly foreign. The driving force of the elite, manipulating perceptions and perpetuating fear, would no longer define my reality. I was determined to cast off the deception that had lingered like a shroud over my faith and purpose. In my new environment, I found a community filled with individuals who, like me, yearned for truth and understanding. It was both humbling and energizing to share my story with others who had also felt the pull of a spiritual awakening. Every testimony echoed the themes of deception we all recognized, the way society often prioritized appearances over reality. As I began to evangelize, serving those in need became my mission. I realized that true freedom came not from merely receiving the revelation, but from living it out in love and action. Each act of kindness I offered was a step toward dismantling the walls these hidden agendas had built around us. Embracing this newfound purpose reignited a fire within me. I started volunteering at shelters and food banks, sharing not just resources but the truth that had transformed my life. The stories I encountered mirrored my own struggles. People caught in cycles of despair, desperately needing a beacon of hope. I would gather around others, recounting my encounter with Jesus, emphasizing how the darkness we faced could be illuminated by faith. This is a spiritual war, I would tell them. But together we can rise above the deception. There is truth waiting to be unveiled. With each conversation, I sought to spark their own awakenings, to empower them to step toward the truth they deserved. But even in the space of hope, the weight of my past lingered. While I felt a sense of liberation, The fear of being labeled a traitor to my family crept in. I missed the connections I had, even if they were built on a foundation of misunderstanding. I often prayed for reconciliation, praying that they might someday see the light I had encountered. The dichotomy of love and fear became a constant companion. I knew I was supposed to be brave, to advocate for the awakening of others, but my heart ached at the thought of permanent separation. Yet each time I stepped into the light by helping others, I felt renewed, a testimony to the transformative power of faith in action. The journey of awakening was not just about personal redemption, it was about igniting a movement toward truth that could transcend divisions. Years have passed since I first stepped away from my past as a prosecutor in New York, and each day brings a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. In my journey towards spiritual awakening, I founded a shelter dedicated to supporting Muslims seeking truth, a safe haven where they can explore their beliefs free from judgment and expectations. This endeavor isn't just about providing shelter. It's about nurturing minds and souls, gradually revealing the truths I've come to cherish. I've witnessed countless lives transform as they step into the light, and it reinforces my own belief that there is power in community and shared experience. When I reflect on my time before the awakening, I recognize the profound deception that held so many in my community captive. The pressure to conform to societal norms, the hidden agendas perpetuated by the elite. It was suffocating. But now, with the shelter as a beacon of hope, I feel liberated to share the powerful revelations Jesus imparted to me. Each testimony I hear from those who walk through my doors echoes my own struggles, reminding me that we are all engaged in a spiritual war against ignorance and fear. I encourage them to question, to dig deeper, and to seek out the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. As my influence grows, so too does my desire for reconciliation with the family I left behind. I still hold on to the hope that one day they may come to understand the truths I've embraced. I pray for them, that they might see the light and recognize that the love I have for them remains steadfast. The tension between my mission and my past is ever present, and while I find joy in helping others awaken, my heart aches for the relationships I've sacrificed in this pursuit. I often wonder if they will ever forgive me for breaking away, or if they will see my choices as betrayal, rather than the liberation I intended. Despite these heavy thoughts, witnessing the awakening of those who enter the shelter fills me with joy and purpose. I host discussions, lead prayer circles, and encourage shared testimonies. Each soul that suddenly grasps the truth of their existence is like a match struck in the darkness, a flicker of light that has the potential to illuminate the shadows for others. The community we've built serves as a support system against the division wrought by those who thrive on our ignorance. Each story shared reinforces the urgency of our message. We are not alone in our struggles, and there is incredible power in standing together against the forces that seek to keep us divided. And so, I press on, fully aware of the risks involved. The ongoing spiritual war manifests through many fronts, revealing the depths of human despair, as well as the heights of hope. With Jesus as my guide, I remain steadfast in my belief that faith can liberate us from the chains of perception crafted by the elite. The path ahead remains uncertain, yet the impact of our collective awakening grows stronger with each passing day. I'm committed to being a voice for those still imprisoned by deception, sharing my experiences in hopes that others will find the courage to embark on their own journeys of truth. The battle is far from over, and as we navigate this maze together, I believe we are inching closer to the ultimate revelation that will transform our lives and the world around us. In the midst of my life as a prosecutor in New York, I often found myself feeling trapped, ensnared in a web of expectations that seemed to tighten with each passing day. My name is Amir, and while I had always taken pride in my work, I carried a growing sense of emptiness that I couldn't ignore. Though I adhered to my Muslim faith, the prayers once filled with meaning had devolved into a monotonous ritual, leaving me feeling isolated and questioning the very core of what I believed. Then came the fateful day when everything changed. a moment that shifted my perspective and thrust me into an unparalleled spiritual conflict. During a particularly intense trial, as I stood presenting critical evidence, I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. The words I thought I would speak fell silent as everything around me blurred into darkness. It was in that abyss that I encountered Jesus. His presence was exquisite, enveloping me in a warmth that penetrated my despair. "Amir," he called, and in that moment I was struck by the sheer power of his voice. I felt an instant connection, a recognition that transcended reality. It was as if the layers of deception that had clouded my vision suddenly peeled away, revealing the profound truths about the spiritual war that raged not just within me, but in the hearts of millions. As the light surrounded me, revelations began to flow, unraveling the hidden agendas of the elite who manipulate our society. Jesus revealed the intricacies of the spiritual war, the conflicts not only among nations but also among individuals trapped in a cycle of ignorance. I saw how easily fear could be wielded as a weapon, how leaders endlessly perpetuated division to gain control. It dawned on me that the essence of my discontent stemmed from my submission to a narrative that constrained my spirit. Jesus urged me to awaken, to recognize the truth behind the layers of deception that kept so many souls shackled. Upon awakening, I was thrust back into the chaos of the courtroom, but I was different, transformed. The urgency to share what I had experienced surged within me. How could I remain silent whilst others suffered under the weight of lies? Each moment felt like an opportunity to shine a light on the truth I had discovered. I began to see the stories of individuals around me, not as mere cases, but as reflections of the greater struggle for awakening. Every verdict I rendered was a chance to push against the hidden agendas of those in power. The tension grew, and with it, my conviction solidified. I was meant to be a voice of truth, one that echoed the revelations I had received. Yet, the fear of backlash haunted me. The thought of alienating my family, of being abandoned by my community, often left me breathless. I grappled with contradictions. I yearned for connection, yet felt compelled to speak out against the very beliefs that had shaped my upbringing. Even in my moments of darkness, I clung to the hope that truth would eventually triumph. When I looked into the faces of my colleagues and friends, I saw potential for awakening, a recognition that something deeper lay beneath the constraints of our traditions. With every truth I shared, I hoped to spark a fire in their hearts, urging them to question what they had always accepted to be true. The spiritual war may be daunting, but I sensed an undeniable shift, a movement toward awakening that had only just begun. As I reflect on my journey, how I transformed from a prosecutor caught in the shadows of doubt to a warrior of truth, I find myself grappling with a profound sense of urgency to share this message with you. What if I told you that beneath the surface of our world lies a struggle that's far bigger than any of us can imagine? A struggle that urges each of us, regardless of our faith or background, to wake up and confront the deceptions woven into the fabric of our existence? I stand here, not as a beacon of perfect faith, but as a fellow seeker who has encountered the light and knows that we are all connected by our quest for truth. The revelations I experienced that day with Jesus opened my eyes to a cosmic battle for our hearts and souls, one that many are oblivious to. The forces at play are real. The elite who flourish on division seek to keep us distracted and compliant. Yet here's the challenge. How many of us spend our days going through the motions, unaware of the deeper truths that lie dormant within us? That craving for authenticity, for understanding, is part of the call to action that I felt so deeply. It's a call that resonates with everyone who yearns to break free from societal constraints and reclaim their power. So, what about you? Have you felt that sense of awakening, that tingling in your spirit, urging you to seek out the truth? What's your experience with this spiritual war? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. You're not alone in this struggle. If this message strikes a chord within you, please don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating the notification bell. Your participation is vital because what we're uncovering together goes beyond mere stories. It's about igniting a movement of awareness and compassion to elevate our collective consciousness. The next chapter of our exploration promises even greater revelations, one that digs deeper into the teachings of Christ and the spiritual truths that can liberate us all. In the upcoming video, we'll dive into the testimony of someone who encountered the divine in a moment of despair, revealing how that encounter forever shaped their life and faith. I'm Amir Al-Fayed, and it has been an honor to share my journey with you today. Always remember, the truth isn't just discovered, it's awakened within us, waiting for the courage to break free from the chains of deception. Thank you for being a part of this sacred exploration.